Okay. All right, cool. So jumping right in, this is our module 3 group discussion on the case of Anna. And I'm going to kick it off with question 1 here. So consider Anna's development with the following issues. What are the contributions of nature, contributions of nurture, and interactions between the two? So for contributions of nature that I identified with Anna, she has a lot of environmental factors around her. Wait, I wrote it out opposite. I started with nurture rather than nature. Okay, let me shift my eyes. So the nature factors for Anna. In both her mother and father lineage, there is a history of substance abuse. So a possible history of difficulty with emotional regulation and high sensitivity that could have been passed on to Anna. She has a genetic vulnerability to addiction. And then she also has received high stress biology from both parents. So Walter's immigration, her birth father, if he experienced stress or hardship in going through his immigration, that could have been epigenetically passed down to Anna. And then also her mother's illness, the age gap, the quick marriage, the stress of all of that, and then the conflict in the house in Anna's first months of development, as well as stress in utero, I think could have passed down some high stress biology to Anna. And then for nurture, environmental factors, she is living with a single young mother with an illness. She has very inconsistent father figures in her life. There's a lot of relational volatility in the home between caregivers. They are living in poverty. And then she also is around a lot of academic pressures at her academically demanding school without a lack of support to succeed in that area. So then the interaction between nature and nurture, I would say if Anna is already predisposedly sensitive, the volatility in her home environment could amplify those vulnerabilities for her and just kind of kick off in the cycle in that way. She's genetically prone to be a little bit more sensitive, and the nature impact of the volatility in her home amplifies these sensitivities, and it guides her behavior while she also is navigating attachment wounds and the immaturity and an oscillation between shyness and overaffection as well. And then also her nature and nurture are affected by the proximal processes, such as her daily interactions with her family figures, and then also the distal processes, such as her mother's illness, the family's poverty, academic pressure, and family history. So that is my question 1. Does anyone have anything to add in? I will keep it scooting.
Yeah, I felt like you nailed all areas of that. But yeah, especially, just that nurture of being betrayed by your mom and who you thought was your dad.
Yeah, when it said she was pitted between the parents, I was like, oh, that poor baby. Like, that's so confusing. That's just, and very destabilizing as well to not know who to trust and what story to trust there. It's a lot to go through that age. So leading to question 2, identifying the event, crisis, or trauma and the onset. So we could say that she had, a first trauma in infancy with Walter leaving. So she doesn't probably consciously remember that, but I imagine some attachment wounds were kicked off in that. But the main trauma happens when she's around 6 or 7, when Karen and Frank start having conflict. The new baby comes in, Karen and Frank divorce. And then on top of that, the conflicting realities presented to her around Frank's fatherhood. So I think that the main event was losing Frank as a fatherhood and receiving conflicting messages. And then the onset of that was the divorce. That's what kind of started that break.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like the main crisis there is definitely her approaching Frank and him disclosing that he's not her real dad and the mom lying to her. I mean, that has horrible effects, I'm sure.
It's so brain scrambling for a kid. It's very...
Right. I also felt like I mean, it doesn't give enough information, I guess, but like how much her rheumatoid arthritis, like, is Anna potentially caring for these kids, like when mom can't? Like, I mean,
it's a great point.
Yeah.
And it can be disabling, but it doesn't say that in there, but.
Right. But we could maybe infer that there's some level of responsibility put on her shoulders while her mom is out of commission or not fully functioning. Yeah, that's a really good point. All right, so jumping to question 3, what outcomes could be predicted for this client, specifically through the lens of continuity and change? So continuity would be Anna's risk pathway. So if there's no intervention and if her current patterns go unchecked, I think it can be assumed that she would be dealing with probably continued poor academic achievement. I kind of sort of summarize it as failure to thrive. She would just have a lot of these issues exacerbated further on. So poor academic achievement, I think social and attachment issues. She would probably be dealing with unstable relationships, low self-esteem and identity confusion, especially with like, who's my real father? Where do I belong? You know, that would really hit really deep. And then likely substance abuse issues to cope with all of these other issues since she's predisposed. And if she hasn't been taught any other better coping mechanisms. So then the change path, that would be the neuroplasticity and more of a resilience pathway. And also wraps in protective factors. If Anna were introduced to a stable adult relationship, such as a counselor or a mentor or a teacher, if she were able to access therapy to work through her attachment wounds and strengthen her coping skills and help her build identity, if she were able to receive academic support at school, and then also if she were able to hone her social skills and start having positive peer relationships, that would help her a lot.
Yes, I totally agree. That starts to relate to question 4. Question 4 is, what structures are in place or need to be to promote effective familial relationships, development, and coping within the family dynamic? Obviously, as you mentioned, counseling would be ideal, especially to manage crisis and learn healthy, positive, affecting coping mechanisms. As we noted in the case study, Anna is shy and she doesn't have any friends at school, which is a big red flag. It's an indication that she may have developed an insecure attachment. As we've read in the text, children who develop secure attachments are confident and they socialize with ease and have a strong social support system at school and at home. The role of attachment can be diminished, though, throughout early childhood, which I thought was really interesting. So if she developed an insecure attachment, there is still an opportunity for those outcomes to improve through her mom being warm and sensitive. Parental acceptance, support, and responsiveness can substantially change attachment outcomes. Risk factors in the family relationship are the divorce, and I think also the risk of her mom losing her job is a huge stressor. Mm-hmm. So mom could focus on being warm, sensitive, and attentive. Children can still develop normally and cope well with dysfunctional circumstances when they have that dependable caregiver, so that is hugely important. And then also parenting, her mom could focus on taking an authoritative approach, having sensitive, positive discipline, being affectionate, praising, and utilizing distraction. Any other thoughts there with the family relationship?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you hit the nail on the head there too, but I just wonder if there's like resources for like mom, you mentioned her losing her job and stuff. If there's resources for mom within her, I mean, she clearly has a medical condition, and resources in dealing with that and finding her a job that won't be, I don't know, as stressful or is. Yeah. But in turn, then she can help Anna deal with, I mean, I feel like she can't really help Anna that much when she's dealing with all her own stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was thinking that too, of like, I think just more presence, you know, is probably what Anna needs from her mom. But to your point, Kelly, when her mom, you know, has all of these very real pressures pushing down on her. And I think it also just makes us think about and appreciate the hardship of poverty on a family and parents' ability to be present with their kids when, you know, they are concerned about basic needs not being met. And that's kind of like, I feel like Maslow's hierarchy of needs explains all of that really well, of like, you're not able to be fully present. So to your point, Kelly, yeah, what resources are there for the mom to be able to get in a better situation?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Question number 5. Identify the individual's interactions and influences on this client using Bronfenbrenner's bioecological model of development. So Bronfenbrenner suggests that a person influences and is influenced by their immediate environment. There's something that he labels as demand characteristics. So essentially, the behaviors that a child have encourages or discourages certain reactions from others around them, other children, other adults. Since Anna is shy, she may fail to get attention and support from those around her, which will make her even more shy and make her, more socially isolated. The bioecological model outlines that change in the child leads to change in the environment, which then leads to more change in the child. And that is through the different systems it breaks down. So starting with the macro system, Anna is living in poverty, her bio dad struggles with alcoholism, and the family relationships are unstable. In the exosystem, that's the environment that affects the child, but the child doesn't interact directly with that environment. So we could say the court system, that's determining child support for Anna and how that plays out. The mesosystem would be composed of her mom, her biological dad, her stepdad, her 2 younger siblings, her teachers, and her peers. And then the microsystem, which is her interactions with those in the mesosystem, would be between illness and work. Her mom is not very present, so having a mom that's not very attentive. She's shy or overly affectionate with teachers. She is immature at school, and she does not have very many friends. So that kind of outlines all the components in that model.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That was great.
Thank you. Question 6. Identify the client's psychosocial stage or crisis based on Erikson's model of development. Make sure you connect that stage to the presenting issues in the case study. Be specific. So Erikson's model explains that behavior can be explained through attitudes toward oneself and others. And that is through 8 psychosocial stages, which are labeled as crises. So you move through a crisis and you either attain a skill or miss out on developing a skill through that crisis. I would say that Anna is in the industry versus inferiority stage, and that is for children that are between 6 and 12 years old. Anna is 9. And in this stage, a child must learn important academic skills so that they can feel competent and keep up with their peers. The virtue developed is competence, so if she succeeds in this stage, she'll feel confident, have a high self-esteem, and feel competent in school. And if she doesn't succeed through this stage, she'll go on with feeling like she lacks competence. So Anna attends public school with high expectations. It's a rigorous school with high standards. Her performance is an entire grade level behind her students, so she's not doing well thus far in this stage. Her teachers are concerned with her behavior. Her home life is not conducive to stress at school. And then another factor that could also influence her success in this stage is that her mom is busy with work and her illness, and her mom also has not received an education past high school, so she might be limited in her abilities to help Anna with school.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned like they're either going to have a skill from going through these stages or they're not going to acquire the skill. So I feel like if she doesn't, do well with the industry versus inferiority, then it'll lead to like identity and versus role confusion. I mean, she's not going to feel like she knows who she's kind of supposed to be and where she fits,
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think is so fascinating about these models is just like the stacking of kind of, like if you miss this milestone, it's not that it can't be fixed, but you have to really dig further deep, and to kind of fix some of the things, as I'm even finding in my own therapy, if things are not happening.
Yeah.
Really work on building those back in. And it probably would lead to just her sense of feeling very behind and stunted and all of that too.
Mm-hmm. Even with the first stage of trust versus mistrust, if you decide that you don't trust the authority figures in your life, it might be harder to trust teachers and to lean on them for support, therefore leading to failure at school, and then you feel incompetent. So yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving on to the next one, it says identify the multicultural factors within the case and how they influence attachment, interactions, and treatment considerations. So some of the multicultural factors, I mean, I know Anna probably doesn't know that her biological father's from, immigrated from Europe, but I feel like that can had the family struggle to begin with mom, trying to make ends meet with him even before Frank came. And then her chronic illness with Karen's rheumatoid arthritis, Karen's father and Walter, both with alcoholism. And then the blended family dynamics is, she has these 2 other kids now too. And then the father who leaves, who's not her biological father. And then that just leads right into her attachment issues of struggling with identity and who she is. She may feel inferior, out of place, even performing low at school, being a whole grade level behind. And so then, here she's acting shy, and then she acts like overly attached. So she's not learning those skills of how she can succeed at school. And then, dealing with attachment with the trust and how you trust. I mean, her mom was like her number one, you would think, her number one person. And she kind of lied to her whole life. And then here's Frank, who she loved, that's not willing to pay child support and literally tells her he's just her dad. So I just think that would be extremely scarring and for her attachment issues for that. And then treatment, she could benefit from family counseling, open communication with her mom to regain that trust, and then individual counseling too. She can do play therapy, maybe to express herself and how she's really feeling. And then even at school, like the school counselor could do like social groups for her at school. I know some schools have a lot of counseling resources and others don't, but something that could work. And then, so that was kind of the answer for that one.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I don't know exactly, what science says about this, I guess, but like with her dad being Eastern European, she might have even had, like, she grew up American, but she might have even had features that were slightly different than her classmates, things about her that maybe felt different that, she never knew she had an Eastern European father. And so that kind of contributing to like identity stuff, not fitting in and not knowing why she's not fitting in, it's a massive like missing piece of her puzzle.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. Also, that reminds me of the fact that she's comes from a low socioeconomic status. And so even that plays a role and can be isolating. And, considering that her school is rigorous and has high standards, I'm guessing most of the students there are probably not from a low socioeconomic status, considering that funding comes from the direct area that the school's in. So that could also make her feel othered and lonely and can lead to not having friends.
That's a really good point. Yeah, because it does mention that, higher standards of academics. So, says identify 2 goals for working with this client from a mental health and/or school counseling perspective that can promote resilience and coping. To promote resilience and coping, I just feel like the first thing is she needs this trusting adult. So whatever counselor it becomes, like the first goal should be, getting her to trust someone and have this secure relationship with somebody. Because basically everybody that's cared about her has kind of broken her trust. And then another goal to teach those coping skills, like at home and at school, if mom can get involved. I mean, she can there's coping cards and worry jars, where you like write stuff down that you're worried about. If she's not able to like fully express how she feels, maybe she can write it down. I know she's only 9, so I don't know what her, writing skills are, but then you could use, pictures and play therapy and storytelling. I feel like a journal might be helpful, or a mood journal that could have pictures in it, but I don't know how much she'd be able to like, write as far as a journal. And maybe she can. I mean, maybe just because she's a grade behind with a higher standards doesn't mean she's, far behind reading and writing, but.
Yeah, I don't know much about play therapy, but stuff like this, I think I am going to go for my certificate. And I like the idea of just the creative ways to get kids to express themselves when they haven't done it before, haven't felt safe to do it before. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Also learning how to label emotions and just having different types of emotions defined to her could also help her be able to express herself and cope and encourage the healthy attachments to adults. Because again, if she's being shy and avoidant, she's almost, unintentionally promoting the adults not approaching her, not connecting with her. So that could be
Good.
Yeah. And going along with that too, that's why I think like if there was some like social groups within the school day that she could meet with would help her out of the shy or become more comfortable with her classmates or rather than being in the big class. But and it says identify the pros and cons of medications for this client and the effects on her mood, learning, and behavior. This is always a tough one, I feel like, because I mean, yeah, certain medications are great, but every medication has a side effect. I feel like, maybe some anti-anxiety meds would be helpful for her. She might feel more hopeful and confident when the anxiety is not there and help her improve her focus. I mean, it doesn't say that she can't focus, but I mean, I'm sure if you have all that going on,
Yeah.
yeah, it can be assumed that you're not always paying attention, but so the medication could help with focus and stuff too, but then also some of the side effects of stimulants, it suppresses your appetite, causes sleep issues, can make you more irritable, and that's definitely not what you'd want for Anna. And then even trial and error, there's so many of them out there that some of them work great for kids and they don't have any side effects and others don't, but then it's like trying that out can be harmful. And then it's not really addressing the deeper issues that she's having. Like medication is just not addressing her attachment issues or the deeper core of what's going on.
Yeah. It's like treating the symptoms. It's not going to the root to actually root stuff out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like too with medication for children, I don't know enough about it candidly at this point, but it definitely raises the question of, I know we're all trying to be safe and whatnot, but we're also still learning so much about, the brain and human development and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I would need to know more before I was advocating for, medication for kids. Just
it seems like the first approach ideally is not medication and it's trying to intervene with the family life. And there's clearly so many problems based on the case study that need to be addressed that even just like targeting a few of those with counseling or with a social worker or at school, some type of support would probably be super helpful.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And then it totally depends on which, route they go first. Like if they go to a doctor first and prescribes medication instead of going the counseling route first, or vice versa, can just have a big effect on her outcomes of how she's dealing with it all,
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Well, I think that's all I have. Well done, everyone. That was good.
Yeah, great.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.